Our second presentation for today is from Mr. Piesco. He's a candidate for the Bachelor of Arts in Engineering Studies. Piesco is one of a well-built students with a mixed set of skills: human relations, business administration, and engineering. In addition to his unique set of skills, Ryan has been very involved in dedicated to service. As a result, he's currently serving as the SGA president. The title of his presentation is APT Tests as a Means to Improve Education into Technology. Pleasure to welcome him to your visiting series.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Like Dr. Kelly said, I'm introducing you to this idea of the APT test, and that's short for either adaptive placement testing or aptitude test. And we'll talk a little bit about what both of those can mean. So I just want to give you a little bit outline. These are the type of students that we're targeting with this test. Calvin here, one of my favorites. He's not too encouraged by his math skills, and he just finds any way to try to get out of answering a standard question. So this is kind of outlining where we're going with this presentation. I'll give you a little bit of what I was trying to accomplish with this project, and introduce you to what's going on in the education system currently, along with our recommendations coming out of that, and give a bit of a demonstration of how the test works, and hopefully what that can become and what the challenges are to a better future with that. So this was the initial architecture that I designed with Dr. Cornelly a while ago. These were kind of creating the system requirements, starting with the educator. So we have the educator, the red box there, and that's how every classroom should start with the teacher, and they're going to provide a computer with a test on it to the student. Everything's about the relationship between the student and the teacher. And so they're going to be answering some form of academic questions. When I was starting this, I wasn't sure if I wanted to target just math or multiple subjects, but I ended up with math, and I wanted some type of social integration. I wanted more than just what they were answering on a standardized test. So this test would provide more comprehensive results than a regular multiple choice or MCAS type test would give. And so those results go back to the teacher and gives them a better chance of creating a curriculum or placement that's specific to the student needs, which would thereby improve the student's success. These are some of the current statistics based on Piesco rankings. This is a test given to 15-year-olds in over 60 countries every 3 years. And this is specifically in math. And what we would like to see on these two graphs is a positive gap. Because on the left, we have low performers in math, and on the right, we have high performers in math. And as you can see, the United States, that purple line there, is we have a higher percentage of low performers at level 2 out of 6, and a low percentage of high performers at level 5 out of 6, compared to some of the countries like Korea and Singapore and China. They have a positive gap. They have a lot of high performers and a lower percentage of low performers. Just kind of carrying that forward, targeting just in those high learner. What these students are able to do is connect math to real-world situations. So tests and curriculum in other countries are better designed at relating not just the word problem that we kind of created to force math into a word problem. It's more integrated into what you would really see in society. So these students are able to recognize math in everyday life and apply it. So China up there they have about 30% of their students who are taking this test scored at level 6, whereas only less than 3% of the United States students were able to do that. What this translates to is 26th ranking of these 60 countries for the US in math, which translates to Massachusetts, which is one of our higher performing states, is the equivalent of 2 years behind the students in Shanghai. Based on engagement, we have about 50% of students who are even interested in learning math. So that's kind of an issue. If they don't really want to learn math, we need to find a way of how to engage them, keep them involved, and interact with them. And despite all these poor rankings, we're 5th in spending per student. So we spend $115,000 for the course of this education, from kindergarten up to the point where they're taking this test, which is in the top percentile for spending per student. So clearly we need to do something that's more efficient, gives us better results. What you're seeing here on this graph is up top we have our high performers, on the bottom we have our low performers, and also is taking into account how socioeconomic impacts the students that are taking these tests. And we would hope to be up in that green first section there, but really on the left here. So we're underperforming, and we also have a strong impact on our students based on their socioeconomic situation. So what we'd like to see is more resilient students who have belief in themselves, believe that they can achieve. But what we're seeing instead is that high-stakes standardized tests are putting more pressure on students, making them intimidated, and there's kind of an unequal distribution of resources when it comes to education. So what we've been striving for a lot of times in the United States is equality, but what we should be striving for is equity. Equality is giving every student the same thing, while equity gives every student what they need. These are two popular cartoons that among teachers that kind of describes this principle. And so clearly each of these students here, these animals, have their own skills, yet they're all expected to take the same test, and if they're not getting the same result, then clearly they're not achieving well. So my recommendations, and these are also based on, again, the results coming out of that PISA standard. So we have universal educational standards, such as Common Core, but with personalization. So we need to have some type of framework that is testing students and holding schools accountable, but also personalized to the students. And I think the way to do that, the easiest way, is through technology. We can have it specific to each student. So we have 3 laptops here, a laptop for each student, and they're each going to be taking their own kind of test, and those results will all go to the teacher. Give them a better picture of how each student is doing and how the whole class is doing. So they can, again, tailor those needs to each student. Instead of spending more time on grading, they can work with the results more. And also, the socioeconomic impact. When students are taking a test, they feel under pressure, but my goal is to create kind of more of a game, an interactive environment that can feel like a test to the students, so that they can believe in themselves more and hopefully achieve better. So what this turned into, again, was the APS test. And this is kind of the structure that I'll show you in a little bit. I'll demonstrate how it works. But essentially, the first thing that the student gets to do is sign in. They're going to enter their name and what school they're from. And they're going to learn more about how to take the test, the directions, what they'll be doing. And then these are what each of the levels are that they'll be going through. These are based on Common Core standards for grades about 1 through 3. So we have addition, less than or equal to 5, 10, and 20. And then subtraction, same thing. And then multiplication. And that last box there is speed and those things. That is just describing what some of the potential variables are and making the test either harder or simpler for the students. And we'll see what that looks like in a second. And what, again, we will need is a student submission. So the score that they get at the end, as well as some more results beyond just, oh, you got a 100 on this test, oh, you got a 50 on this test. So again, we're going to demonstrate it. So Calvin, again, is going off fishing. So this is the first screen that the test that I was talking about. So again, we're going to enter our student information. My name is Brian Piesco. I'm from ENC. I'm going to go on to the next screen. So here's my directions. So what I created was a fishing game. So you're going to use the hook to catch the numbers as they're coming down the river. And you're going to earn points by collecting true equations or a good fish. And you'll lose bait for each equation that you got wrong. And you can press the space bar to cast again. The timing factors is the adaptive piece. So your fishing line will gradually run out. And when you run out, that'll kind of signify the end of that level. And if you did well on that level, then you'll move on to the next level. If you didn't do well, then you'll kind of stay there and keep working on that. So it's working with each student at the pace that they're capable of. So I'll show you what this looks like. So here we go. I'm trying to move my hook around. And who wants to shout out an equation that I can catch here?
3 plus 2 is 5.
Thank you. There we go. So we have 3 plus 2 equals 5. So I got 250 points for getting that right. Good job. I'll just ask again. Who wants to shout out another one?
4 plus 1 is 0 plus 0.
Okay, we have 0 plus 0. So what am I going to catch here? 0. 4. All right, let's see what happens. Well, I got it wrong. So I lost the light, and now my time is about to run out here on the first level. And so I'm bumping up to the next level because I got some of them right. And so now it's less than 10, and again, so you guys can see what that looks like. And then it'll go up to 20, and then we also have subtraction. We must have shown out a subtraction problem here.
0, 0, 0.
I rolled it there. Alright, so you guys subtraction again, you can kind of see how this works. So what can come out of this as well is this can be, again, tailored to the specific needs of the children and make it more specific to what appeals to them. So the fishing game might appeal to some of the boys in the room or some of the girls who got to go out fishing when they were kids. But for Calvin, for example, he enjoys space. So this could very easily be turned into stars coming across the screen and he's catching it with a spaceship. So again, everyone's taking the same standards, being tested on the same thing, but it's personalized to what's going to appeal to them and interact with them. So now you have a 10 minus 17. I'm going to get that one wrong, obviously. So I just want to show you what happens when we're all done here. So I lost all my lives. It jumped me to the high score screen. You can see some people who played it yesterday at the academic symposium. And so it saved the score, and it saves my name that I entered at the beginning all the time. So you've got either multiple students taking it on the same laptop, they're sharing together, and saving them individually, or you could have one student who's able to take it multiple times, be able to see like which time they got different. And again, we want to submit those results to the teacher. So I'll submit the score here. And what that will do is bring me to the Dropbox that I can drop the pictures of the screenshots of every time I made a mistake, along with the screenshot of that score screen for the teacher to work with the results. And so what that screenshot does is it allows the teacher to see what common mistakes the students are making, as well as whether it was a problem with the actual test, if they were just overwhelmed by all the numbers coming at them, or if it was a problem with the actual equation that they're not recognizing that standard. I'll get us back to presentation. So this is a little bit behind the scenes of what it looks like to actually code and create this game. So this is a flow chart on the left that's describing what it looks like when you are catching those fish. What happens when you get the first one, the second one, the third one. And on the right, that's what it looks like in the program. I used a software called Game Maker, and that was to help develop the app. And so it has some built-in functions that you can use and customize it to what you need it to do. And so again, we have, if you catch the first fish, it's jumping up to that first spot. The second fish is jumping up to the second spot. And then the third one, what it needs to do is check if that equation is true or not. So if it is true, again, it adds to the score, it gives you the positive sound. It also counts your equation count for true equations and increases that. Whereas if you get it wrong, it's going to count an incorrect equation and also take away a life and take, again, a screenshot so the teacher can see what you did wrong. So the software that I use also allows you to do some custom coding. So this is a bit of the adaptive piece of what it looks like behind the scenes. So if the student is getting less than 65% of the equations true in that room, then it's going to keep them there. If they're getting above that, we'll go to the next room. If they got 100% of them right, or at least 4 that they caught, so they were doing really, really well in that room, they'll jump them off 2 rooms. Some of the challenges, there's always challenges when you have a project. Again, Calvin, he's feeling discouraged because his dad, when he was in school, everything he could do now just on a calculator. So he's like, why not just go outside and play instead of learning this math lesson? So again, this project is just a proof of concept. The graphics obviously aren't professional, but I wanted to prove that a framework here could work. The algorithm could be a little bit more specific or more advanced, but again, just trying to prove that it works. I talked a little bit about the flexibility of the program, how it could be developed further. It could also be developed towards other subjects as well. For example, you could have a sentence up the top and you're trying to catch the right vocab word to fit in, or the right grammar for that. Some of the challenges, again, costs up front. A lot of people think, oh, I can afford to have laptops for every student, or tablets, or pay for this software. We'll address that in a minute. Some parents are afraid that their kids are going to be constantly connected to technology, and also privacy security concerns. How is this data being stored? A lot of people are excited about and concerned by the Race to the Top program, storing more information specifically to students, which gives teachers more information, but it also raises some valid privacy concerns. These are some software that are doing similar things to what I hope to accomplish. Testive works for SAT prep. And what it does is, in an hour and a half, rather than 3-hour SAT tests, it can give a far more accurate representation of what that student is capable of. So it is an adaptive software that's keeping them constantly at the edge of what they're capable of. Instead of spending them more time on problems that are too hard for them, or more time on problems that are too simple for them, it just keeps them on the edge of what they're capable of. And again, an average of 135-point jump on their SAT score through using this program. Newton, this is a software that is really cool. When I was first researching for my project, this was one that I found and was really impressed by them and inspired a lot of what I did. But unfortunately, in the past year, somehow their team of software developers, they've far surpassed what I did in my year working on my project. But they created an adaptive infrastructure that helps not work just with math or just with reading, but kind of correlates the two. So if a student's struggling with a word problem, it can tell if they're struggling with the problem or with reading comprehension, and jump them over to reading comprehension in order to progress further in math. So really cool stuff going on there. And again, the cost concerns, the money is there. ConnectEd is an initiative through the White House, through the government, also through the major carriers, AT&T and Verizon, as well as Microsoft and Apple are investing hundreds of millions of dollars towards infrastructure for Wi-Fi at schools, as well as laptops, tablets, whatever education technology is needed. So the money is there, now we need to make the software to support it. And what can you do to get involved? To hopefully encourage students like Calvin who are just trying to manipulate the system with their answers? I want you to be informed. Talk to educators. Just because you went to school doesn't mean you're an expert in education. So talk to actually trained certified teachers and professors and find out what their needs are and what can help them. And that will help you to get involved as well. Get involved with your local school boards, as well as be informed when you're voting. Know who stands for what on the issues of education. We also support students. We have there's a strong correlation between parental expectations and support and student success. So your parents out in the room, and also anyone who likes to mentor their younger siblings or friends, that's really important in encouraging them to succeed. Self-belief is a strong correlation again to student success. And again, proof of that, I would not have succeeded in this project without help from a lot of friends and professors. So Horace Fugate, he helped a lot with my software. He was sitting on my laptop coding away, put some space bars in there, and that was a very helpful experience for me. Also, Eric Clark, he helped me to formulate this idea and kind of get me excited about education technology. And Trinity Studios is a programming group from some of my friends who are hoping to develop apps, and this was kind of one of our first projects. And so thank you to them for encouraging me along the way. Also, Matt Jane, fellow computer engineer here, he helped a lot with creating the program and some advice in the coding help, because he's a little better at coding than I am. And Bethany Fugate also helped as a teacher, giving some of the education perspective, helping correlate the Common Core standards, and developing what that would be. And like Jacob said, Dr. Corley encouraged us and pushed us all along the way, and I would not have succeeded at this project without him. So thank you. Any questions?
Questions for Wyatt?
Considering they had some software like for kids, similar things that you had shown there, and also with like standardized testing like the GRE and so on, they have some adaptive software now that they're developing more. Would you say, would it be accurate to say that what you have here is just kind of taking the adaptive part of the upper level stuff and integrating it into the elementary setting, which probably, I don't know how confident that is.
Yeah, that is accurate. My goal here was to further the discussion and further kind of show an example of how this could be used in the classroom. So how this test is set up right now, it would kind of be as a placement test more so. So a student coming into a school system could take this and they can figure out where they are with these Common Core standards. But I could tailor it very quickly into being specific, say, to addition, and I could address some of those other variables like the speed of the numbers coming, how many there are. So it's testing more specifically to whether they're getting the problems or not. So again, it's just proving a framework that can work in a classroom setting.
Do the existing programs like Newton's and the others, do they have more of that game feel, or are they more multiple choice driven?
Not as much. So they are more of a standardized test type of feel. And they have, again, the word problems that they're working with, and the tested one that is developed by MIT students that is straight. It's still SAT problems. It's just keeping you at the right level along the way.
I feel like you've really hit something. If you can even maybe this is an industry that might develop is if gaming becomes educational and if schools support that, I can see a lot of people who already resonate with that kind of activity, spending a longer time learning I can see it being really good. Kids start to do that. Be good for them.
One of the things I've noticed just in subbing in the schools is that they oftentimes have a computer lab time, so that they're sitting in a computer lab playing a lot of these types of games. But the piece that I particularly liked was the fact that that information then goes back to the teacher, whereas right now it's just sort of unmonitored time that they're playing all these games, and they're probably learning something, but it's not monitored, so there's no way to tailor any of that time to make it useful. So I like that piece of it. I guess that's not really a question, but but I wondered how many other issues doing this project brought up as you went through it. Yeah.
How individualized do you see this getting in terms of like, I don't know, just like, ooh, but you know, like say at the teacher level, say I'm a teacher in a classroom, I say, oh, so I have this general test, but I have a filter that says, well, I need it for my ESL student who is at addition less than 20, you know, whatever, at the same time where I have my like super high student over here. You know, would the teacher be able to sort of make those decisions as they go and adapt it to their classroom, or would it just still be sort of in a box for them, you know?
Yeah, no, it could definitely be tailored specifically by the teacher. So what I started to work on towards the end of my project, once I got the game itself, the test itself to work, were a couple of functions in there that were specifically for the teacher coming in to work with it. So for example, they don't care about going through the whole game. They can just get in here and jump straight to the score and see how the student is doing it. Say if students were sharing a computer, they could just look at the scores. And then they could pick out, oh, this student didn't do as well as the others, so I'm going to go and look at their specific results. So I'm going to go and see the mistakes, and that will bring me to the specific problem that student was having, specific to that student's name, rather than looking at all the results. So again, it's trying to save teachers time from just grading and just working through everything and getting things more specific to what students needed along the way.
I know that at the beginning of this project, some of the requirements had to do with socioeconomic aspect. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So again, one major factor with socioeconomic impact is student engagement. So a lot of these students who are coming from kind of poorer homes or rougher areas, they have a lower student belief because they don't have that expectation. And there's been a lot of results and studies showing that students who are expected to do worse on standardized tests, for example, in the SAT, if a Hispanic student is expected to do poorly, then what's looking for is a way to keep those students engaged and have it feel less like a test and have it feel more like, oh, I'm learning, I'm working through this at my own pace. And so it gives a more accurate representation of what their achievement level is beyond just what their test taking abilities would tell you.
More questions for Ryan? All right, then.